This is section 2 of Unit 4. We're going to talk about some of the causes that led more directly to the Revolutionary War in Georgia. Specifically, what were the sequence of events that connected the colonies in their opposition and initiated the American Revolution. In class, we're going to watch 2 Georgia stories about the whole issue of whether or not Georgia should join the rest of the colonies, and learn a little bit about the Liberty Boys, who first met at Tondee's Tavern in Savannah. In 1773, the Tea Act levied a tax on tea as it was coming into the American colonies. Up and down the colonies, they protested. They sent ships back. They confiscated tea. They didn't want to pay the tax. And in Boston, they went so far as to dress as Indians and dump tea into the harbor. That's what we call the Boston Tea Party. Didn't really happen in Georgia because no tea ships had actually arrived at the port of Savannah. So we have the Boston Tea Party as a reaction to the Tea Act. Well, because of the Boston Tea Party, England passes what they call the coercive acts. They want to teach Boston a lesson and punish Massachusetts for destroying property by throwing tea into the harbor. The British called these the coercive acts. The colonies called them the intolerable acts. They closed the port of Boston. They basically put Boston under martial law and required people in Massachusetts to feed and house British soldiers. This is called quartering, feeding and housing. And as you can guess, it did not go over very well with the people in Boston. Georgians meet in Savannah in 1774 to draft statements explaining their disagreement with the Intolerable Acts and what they want the British to do. So as early as 1774, we have evidence that Georgians feel like their rights as British citizens are being taken away. Georgia didn't send anybody to the First Continental Congress in 1774. All the other colonies did. They were beginning to meet to talk about what they could do. We didn't have anybody at the beginning at the Second Continental Congress either, but Dr. Lyman Hall eventually goes, but he's not representing Georgia, he's just representing St. John's Parish. So he can't vote because he doesn't officially represent the colony. As you can imagine, by this time, the royal government of James Wright is in trouble. He starts to lose control of the colony by 1775, especially after Georgians learn of the battles of Lexington and Concord in April of 1775. The Sons of Liberty in Savannah steal 600 pounds of gunpowder from the Royal Gunpowder Storage House. A Council of Safety is formed that will assume the powers of the governor and his council. The Council of Safety is what runs Georgia during the Revolution in those places where the British are not still in control. 5 Georgians did eventually go to the Second Continental Congress. John Zubley, Archibald Bullock, Noble Wimberly Jones, Lyman Hall, and John Houston. So by 1775, Georgia is well on its way to full rebellion. In the back country, now that British soldiers were no longer protecting colonists, backcountry settlers, from Indian attacks, lots of those settlers changed their loyalty. If England was not going to be able to protect them, why should they be loyal, was what they thought. Georgians who defied the British government called themselves patriots. Those who wished to remain under British rule were called loyalists or Tories. Now, the only way I can remember that Tories and loyalists are the same thing is because they both have the "oy" sound in them, sort of. That's just how I remember it. As Georgia joins the rebellion, James Wright and his family are forced out of the colony. In 1776, in July, by that time, the Declaration of Independence is finished. It is the colonists' reasons for separating from Great Britain. It's addressed to the king, and in it they explain the problems that they have with how the British are ruling the colonies. They say that their natural rights come not from the king, that they are from the Creator, that they have those rights because they are human beings. They make the document, Declaration of Independence, makes it clear that the colonies have the right to separate from England and that all the colonies are together on this. 3 Georgians sign the Declaration: Lyman Hall, George Walton, and Button Gwinnett. Let's find out a little bit more about these 3 guys. Lyman Hall was the first person, like we heard a while ago, to represent Georgia at the Continental Congress. He also serves as Georgia's governor and helps found the University of Georgia. Button Gwinnett was born in England, had served in the Georgia Commons House of Assembly. He went to the Second Continental Congress. He dies, though, less than a year after signing the Declaration of Independence in a duel with his political rival, Lachlan McIntosh. We'll talk more about that. George Walton was an attorney. He later served as governor, Chief Justice of the Georgia Supreme Court, and was a United States Senator. That's it for part 2 of Unit 4. Remember to do workbook page 58, and we'll talk about all of this stuff in class.